final presenter today is Kristina Schlosser, and the title of her presentation is The 21st Century Tiller Girls of YouTube in Natalie Bookchin's Mass Ornament. And in anticipation of the excellence of Kristina's paper.
Thank you. Okay, thank you everyone for coming and for staying, and I'm really excited to share my thesis work in progress with you, and I'd like to thank Melanie for snazzing up the presentation, helping me, and also my thesis committee for their continued help and advice. Natalie Bookchin, a contemporary new media artist previously associated with the net art movement of the early 1990s, has recently changed her approach to creating art with internet material by appropriating YouTube clips. Instead of creating art solely online, as she had previously done, Bookchin has begun to take internet material offline in order to document, archive, and critically examine the visual culture being produced by 21st century society. In her recent work, Mass Ornament, Bookchin appropriated YouTube videos of people dancing alone in their rooms and created a 7-minute video installation. So this is just a mock-up that the artist made of the installation. This is not a video. Mass Ornament is projected onto a 14-foot wall and has 5 speakers spread throughout the gallery. And hopefully you can see here there's 3 at the front, and we kind of can't. 3 at the front and 2 in the back, and they all sound off at different times. Bookchin shows the YouTube videos in Mass Ornament based on aesthetic themes of similar gestures, movements, and personal spaces. She then carefully edited the dancers into a choreographed dance based on the found and inherent similarities within the clips, creating an overall video pastiche. Bookchin's Mass Ornament, in the title and aesthetic, references past modernist and industrialization efforts from interwar America and the critical theory of Siegfried Kracauer, who coined the term. According to Kracauer, a mass ornament is, quote, an exodus of individuals into anonymity, through which their nature is deprived of its substance. The mass ornament presents itself as a cult of physical culture, mythological but devoid of meaning. The overall emphasis when a large group of individuals are together is a patterning, geometric aesthetic in which the particular human units are abstracted and blended together. The loss of natural substance that Kracauer refers to is the removal of individual personality and uniqueness in order for a seamless subhuman mass ornament to take precedence. This not only subsumes the individual, but also superficially presents the mass ornament as a large, powerful force of humanity. Kracauer critiques this assumed collective myth as anything but. He also further warned against continually producing and consuming the imagined mass ornament through film, theater, or photography of the time, for instance, because it distracts from any real potential or social political change. During the time of Kracauer's mass ornament theory in interwar America, a new conception of the human system evolved. The new system emphasized an interdependence of assumed parts, which were closely integrated as a whole because of modernized advancements in the 20th century. Distinctions between technology and human endeavors were blurred, allowing for technological solutions to potentially solve social concerns. So maybe in this photograph or film still of Leslie Berkeley's 42nd Street, his movie, maybe you can see that the individual dancers are sort of blended into this larger, even cog of a machine. The industrialized innovations that prioritized efficiency and mass production, namely Taylorism, which then inspired Fordism, was conceptually applied to how humans should act, connect, and relate to one another for the betterment of society. The human body was ideologically reconsidered as a machine, which thus inspired the popularity and increased use of a machine aesthetic. For instance, another example, Margaret Burke-White's photograph of the Moscow Ballet School in 1931, titled Machine Dance. In it, the performers imitated a train swaying and stamping their feet in an attempt to retrain their bodies and overall performance to be more machine-like and efficient. Thus, the machine way of life, which emphasized power, repetition, speed, efficiency, precision, streamlined appeal, and overall rhythmic flow, dominated America's interwar machine age. Kracauer's main example of mass ornamentation and mechanized humanism were the Tiller Girls. I may have to come in. Named after their creator, John Tiller, the Tiller Girls were a chorus line popular in Germany, who made their debut in America in the early 1900s. Each Tiller girl was selected for the chorus line based on similar height, weight, and stature, and then choreographed by Tiller into a spectacular dance, like the popular Karen that you see here. They performed standardized moves as part of a larger group, choreographed into exact precision. The girls were secondary to the primary whole, aesthetically symbolizing the industrial and modern machine technologies of the 20th century. Their legs and arms became parts of the collective machine, moving in synchronicity to draw the focus onto the abstracted spectacle of the dancers in unison. Wish I could let it keep going, but... Bookchin references Kracauer's theory, literally, in the title and ideology, and aesthetically, in the Tiller Girls' machine aesthetic, to provide visual evidence of the changing environment of online human interaction. Bookchin, through mass ornament, reveals the subtle evidence of the 21st century version of the Tiller Girls within YouTube. By indicating many similarities with past technological ideologies, aesthetics, advancements, and critiques, Bookchin's work highlights not only the mass dissemination thereof, but individual internalization of mechanized production in the 21st century via the internet. Bookchin's mass ornament is a warning against the continued development of our society towards a reinvented post-Fordist assembly line, and highlights the need to examine the new media and capitalist methods inherent within the internet. This presentation in my larger thesis project will focus on the comparison and similarities between Kracauer's mass ornament theory and the Tiller Girls with Bookchin's video installation. The larger technological, new media, gender, and historical context will be introduced briefly, and I welcome questions about that afterwards. Bookchin's video installation, while not as harsh a critique as Kracauer's, does warn against his mass ornament theory of century past becoming a pervading truth for the present. Bookchin does this through a variety of editing techniques to reveal the already present Tiller Girl aesthetic and mechanized, industrialized emulation on YouTube. By creating a unifying soundtrack, choreographed dance, with similar dancer characteristics, moves, gestures, and environments, as well as keeping video clips all the same size that are coming out as union, mass ornament reveals the 21st century version of Kracauer's Tiller Girls and subsequent mass ornament on YouTube. I will focus on the larger unifying themes which best support this comparison and draws out those similarities. Mass ornament begins by showing the staging of the recording device by the dancer in a private interior environment, about to bear witness to the dancer's moves. One can hear the shuffling of the dancer, adjusting their clothing. Well, maybe you can't. One can hear the shuffling of the dancer adjusting their clothing and setting in preparation for their debut. Living rooms, bedrooms, bathrooms, hallways, and kitchens of private residences seem to anticipate the imminent performance. After the prepping of the environment and recording equipment, the title of Bookchin's work airs and segues into the 7-minute dance number. Organized by similar environments down to the objects present, Bookchin edited the videos to aesthetically highlight the similarities between the individual spaces. For example, two of the interiors that I've provided you here show mirrors or Christmas trees as unifying elements in the environments. Bookchin was greatly inspired by Busby Berkeley's Gold Diggers of 1933 and uses the overall development, plot, and some music of the movie throughout Mass Ornament. The soundtrack of the opening scene of Gold Diggers, sung by Ginger Rogers, called We're in the Money, is used by Bookchin to open Mass Ornament. One of the most crucial and unifying elements of Bookchin's Mass Ornament, other than her editing the clips into a synchronized dance, is the soundtrack. The soundtrack effectively helps to coordinate the dancers to make it seem that they're all dancing to the same music. At times throughout the video, Bookchin allows for the individual sounds of the original environment or songs danced to take precedence. Bookchin does this in order to remind the viewer that, convincing as her editing may appear, these dances were originally posted singularly to be viewed by the public at large and danced to different songs of their choice. As the video progresses, Bookchin switches back and forth from a few video clips lined up at some points to larger choreographed sequences of multiple videos stretched across the screen. For example, 3 across or 20 across. This continually reminds the viewer of the relationship of the individual YouTube dancer within the larger Mass Ornament that Bookchin has edited together. As seen here, the scale of the video clips are the same throughout the video, whether zooming in or panning out, to emphasize the Tiller Girl Mass Ornament of qualities of the dancers. Interestingly, just as the individual YouTubers are edited to dance a singular choreography, so too, as the video clips expand and contract in and out, appear to dance themselves. About 5 minutes into the video, Bookchin has the video clips dance a brief solo interlude across the screen, breaking from the otherwise strictly horizontal format. The videos suddenly come alive and are able to dance just as those who posted them within them do. Following the video clip's dance solo, Bookchin edited gymnastic moves together, providing a brief variation in the overall traditional dance format. Set to part of the soundtrack of Leni Riefenstahl's Triumph of the Will, the YouTube dancers suddenly seem to be performing a drill for a larger gymnastic or sporting event, emulating Riefenstahl's other popular film, Olympia, from 1938, which documented the first Summer Olympics, a film still of which you see on the right. In this video still of Olympia, the German athletes become abstracted into an overall pattern of athletes, highlighting yet another exemplary Mass Ornament. It is unclear whether Bookchin's work is specifically referencing Olympia, but it seems this may be the case because of the focus on gymnastic exercises and her use of another Riefenstahl soundtrack. The video ends by increasingly expanding out and widening the scope to the largest amount of video clips side by side throughout Mass Ornament, subsequently reducing the clips to their smallest scale. The dancers are no longer easily distinguishable. The video clips themselves, instead of the barely distinguishable dancers, create the Mass Ornament. Just as the Tiller Girls were a system with machine-like precision and efficiency, creating an overall geometric abstract pattern, so too does the ending scene emphasize the mass of YouTube clips instead of any one particular dancer or video. Also, while not intentionally chosen based on specific physical traits like Tiller, Bookchin's dancers do still share similar physical characteristics. Most of the dancers in Mass Ornament are young in age, and the overall majority are female. It can be further inferred that the dancers come from middle to upper class status, as seen in the objects and technology and conditions of the private environments in the backgrounds of the videos. So presumably they all had to have a computer and a video recording device. Many of the female dancers in Bookchin's Mass Ornament are also dressed in revealing clothing and perform sexualized moves and gestures just as the Tiller Girls did. Mass Ornament revealed, alongside similar dancer characteristics, a larger genre within YouTube that is consistently performed, produced, consumed, and repeated. The performance genre of individual people dancing alone in their room is an extremely popular form of YouTube video posts. These particular video posts are usually responding to pop culture, mass media, or other popular media. As we see here in the screenshot that I took, I did a search on YouTube, dancing in my room, and this is what came up. But interestingly, there seems to be a naturally occurring mass ornament even within the related video column on the right, created by YouTube itself. Bookchin differs, however, because she removed the YouTube videos and edited them together, effectively archiving, documenting, and making obvious the subtly occurring mass ornament. The constant performing, producing, and consuming of culture, shown by this particular YouTube genre, is exactly what Kracauer warned against a century ago. Kracauer criticized the mass ornament for its ultimately narcissistic style of consuming and producing, repeating its own image, therefore stunting societal progress. This is strikingly similar to the mass ornament in the crowd consuming the Tiller Girls as they performed. By watching what one likes, and other likewise videos suggested by YouTube, the viewer is consuming both themselves as well as the mass ornament of videos on YouTube. So I don't know if many of you use YouTube, but you watch a video, oh look, there's related videos, I'm just going to click on some of these, and then you end up creating your own path, watching what you want to watch, basically. Kracauer critiqued the Tiller Girls because of their mechanized aesthetic, standardization of human parts, and reduction of the girls as cogs in the larger system, which were influenced by industrialized methods such as Fordism. Kracauer explained that the mass ornament was a new type of collective organization that was not based on the natural bonds of community, but instead as a social mass of functionally linked individuals, in which true meaning is sacrificed for the sake of abstracting individualism. Consequently, Kracauer continues, quote, as such, they regress into myth and in the process expose the gulf between capitalist ratio and reason. He warned that if society constantly consumed its own image, it was easier for capitalist efforts to control and mobilize the masses through technology. The abstraction of individuals for the larger collective is at its core mythological because it appears fully functional. Therefore, capitalist influences are quickly spread throughout the collective mass, which then passively absorbs the information. To combat this and regain the potential for positive societal progress, Kracauer argued the need for more self-reflexivity. This reflexive practice is crucial for the mass ornament to ever eventually overcome its own paralysis and rescue itself from complacency. Bookchin also began to observe that the mechanized aesthetic inspired by industrialization, and the Tiller Girls in this case, was developing in the 21st century. Bookchin noted in retrospect, when mass ornament was first exhibited, that if Fordism once described a social and economic system that focused on large-scale factory production, Post-Fordism describes a shift away from the masses of workers in the same space to smaller-scale production by workers scattered throughout the world. These workers are linked by technology rather than an assembly line, and therefore are more temporary or contract workers, often working from home, producing more specialized, less standardized goods. If the machinery of the Fordist era was mechanical, Post-Fordism is digital. The vehicles for production today are information and communication technologies rather than conveyor belts and assembly lines. Bookchin observed that the dancers of the YouTube clips that she edited together essentially represent the new post-Fordist assembly line of the 21st century. Furthermore, YouTube is watched individually at one's own computer, comprising a separate, isolated mass ornament audience, watching the subtle, internalized, performed mass ornament of the videos. The YouTuber who posts the videos is indeed creating a product for public consumption, linked by the internet, working from home, producing a specialized, standardized genre video. Bookchin's mass ornament, by directly referencing ideologically and aesthetically Kracauer's theory in the Tiller Girls, ultimately warns against potentially remaining a stunted mass of individuals consuming YouTube videos along the post-Fordist internet assembly line. In doing so, mass ornament is a warning to the potential loss of individual rights and humanity, as well as the increased passive interaction with the previously democratic, progressive, and potentially positive technology that could and still can be used to improve the future. Thank you. Graham?
So I was wondering, thinking, I think what's striking about this sort of device with Berkeley or things like that is the level of professionalism and the way these things are choreographed and the kind of impeccable, sort of production where everything just sort of has to be sort of perfectly in sort of tune with each other, or the whole kind of system sort of breaks down and becomes sort of less appealing. And it seems like, in comparison to something like YouTube, where to me YouTube is sort of defined by its kind of amateur, or its appeal to sort of amateurs rather than professionals, and it's about a site where, the videos that are often the most popular are not the ones of people who actually have sort of real talent, but the ones that are sort of embarrassingly, horrible. And those, yeah. But that's the sharing in the sort of the sharing in this sort of this the kind of amateurishness of these other people is part of the pleasure that you get out of it. That none of us are sort of professional singers and dancers, and well, maybe like I'm singing, but that's part of the kind of the fun of YouTube, because we're not any better, and it's sort of there's a certain pleasure in sort of watching other people sort of make fun of themselves in that way. But in contrast to something like the Post-Fordism musicals, where these dancers were sort of works to the bone, to the point of theater reading, to make these sort of perfect choreographed scenes. It just seems like, in terms of what she's doing, they only become sort of mass ornament in the way that she's sort of manipulating them, and sort of taking them out of the level of sort of amateurs kind of enjoyment of them, and trying to kind of pass them off as something that's more professionalized. I just wanted to know what your thoughts were about that.
Sure, there's a lot of good things to talk about there. So maybe, I don't think I got to it in my presentation, but one of the crucial differences, I pointed out a lot of similarities in my talk today, but one of the crucial differences in all of this is that mass mediation, or when it's originally created. So say Tiller Girls or Busby Berkeley. They have Berkeley, they have John Tiller as the sort of controlling force creating the mass ornament. So in this case, you could even say that Bookchin is the Tiller, is Berkeley. But the interesting thing about YouTube is that, well, one side note, actually a lot of the accounts are held by corporate or like media stations, news stations, and they get the longer clips, longer than 10 minutes, and there is this amateur video posting going on, well, and that's why I brought this up, because this is Beyonce's Single Ladies, the music video, and so Bookchin chose these dancers, to choreograph, because they were performing this pop cultural video, and so what's happened is there's been an internalization of sort of the mass ornament. So instead of a mass mediated top-down Tiller or Berkeley, controlling how the dancers are dancing and synchronizing them that way, in this case, the mass ornament is internalized because everybody posted these singularly, yes, and are dancing to Beyonce's Single Ladies, but this is just like a disseminated mass ornament. I don't know if I answered your question.
Well, yeah. Well, I just had a kind of follow-up question to that.
Sure.
So the other thing I was thinking about is, you can talk a little bit about, or not, you mentioned at the beginning the way this is exhibited, right? And it's a museum, it's an installation piece. And I just wondered how that is supposed to affect, I guess my real question is about the sort of the viewer's experience and what it is that we're meant to sort of take pleasure in that makes this different than just us sitting at home on the computer looking at YouTube videos. And it just seems like, again, with this comparison that you're making to the sort of I was birthday, and it seemed like one of the things that was new or different about that was to sort of give people something that they sort of were already seeing with the theater, but to sort of to give them a kind of new experience, different experience at the same thing by using these sort of crane shots to sort of go above, you know, the dancers to show these sort of kaleidoscope kind of effects, or to tracking shots. So there's one in 42nd Street where the camera kind of goes through all the women's legs. You know, so sort of rather than having just a stationary position, you know, say like at a computer, being like at a, you know, in an audience or something in a theater, the camera was able to give you this sort of different sort of experience of the space or of the dancing. And I was just wondering how you sort of, with that kind of shift between the viewer's experience, how you, what your kind of view is about what she's doing as an artist, taking our viewing experience of these videos individually at home with our computers, and putting it into a sort of museum space where people are sort of invited to collectively experience it together in a way that's sort of different from the way that we might experience it individually, you know, around the world.
Sure, so that's actually something that's really important that I acknowledge in the paper, is that this is meant to be viewed as a video installation in a space. It's not meant to be viewed online, although you can get it from YouTube or Vimeo. So what happens then in the video installation viewer interaction experience is that sound is coming out from different speakers at different times. The clips themselves are like 2/3 human scale, and you're in a completely blackened gallery. And so there's also, I showed you the part where the clips are dancing across the screen, or they're panning in and out. And so I feel like that probably emulates more closely how, say, the mass ornaments of interwar America machine age were experienced. Say in film, you'd be in a theater, it's dark, sounds coming out from different, you know, points, and you're kind of watching the video. And then online, just with the video posts themselves and the direction of consuming it on your own computer by yourself, I think that's also sort of what Bookchin's saying, is that there's this separated, isolated, alienated mass ornament, you know, of the audience that's consuming these videos. So, I mean, there's a difference there between then and now, but that there's still, that this theory and this critique of Kracauer and still holds up. It's just changed a little bit. Maybe we can.
Okay, Eddie, we've got the hand up now, and then we will be wrapping up. Hold on, 1, 2, 3, 6, 9 minutes.
So good.
Oh, good way. Melissa?
Mine should be fairly easy after that one. It looks like there's text under each of the individual
Yes.
clips. Are those like acknowledgements of where she got who the person belonged to? How did she obtain permission for these? Because I was under the impression that, just from posting stuff on YouTube, that there's like a CCM or like a digital rights thing going on. Did she get permission from the individuals who posted these videos, or did she just sort of in her mind now like making?
Okay, that's a good question. So, and this kind of links up with what the whole Facebook controversy right now, where everything's, you know, your information, your picture, and everything is made automatically public, and it's owned by Facebook essentially, so they have the rights. So what happened here is that same thing. You post a video on YouTube, it's a public platform, and what Bookchin did was she just ripped the videos. I mean, it was available to her, and she was inspired by the medium. So no, there was no permission taken from each and every one of the dancers. That's a good question. And then the text underneath, which you can't read here, it's the original view count from when the video was posted by the user at the point when she downloaded it. So, and she preserved that. I mean, presumably she could have edited that out, but she preserved that in order to highlight the fact that these videos were made by individual people, meant to be viewed for the public, or else don't post it on YouTube, you know. So, good question though. Lindsay?
Kind of echoing what Graham was saying, but
Mhm.
does it make a difference? I mean, I think he was asking, does it make a difference if these moments are not completely awesome and shitty? Is there a way that we can see it in like maybe a less sort of scary, cynical way, and like turn it, that if it's from the bottom up as opposed to the top down, it could actually be some sort of really democratic social platform, social movement or something like that.
Yes. No, that's a good question, and actually that's something I personally wavered with, because I didn't want to even think that, you know, this post-Fordist assembly line and we're all mass mediated and mechanized and all that. I think that that's an important discourse just within new media debates itself. This, you know, utopian dreams, positive potential of internet, and the, you know, alienated, isolated experience that you can have in your own room watching these videos by yourself as well. So I guess I chose to read the latter, the more pessimistic view. I'm sorry.
Similar to that, does the artist make any commentary on sort of, because what I'm thinking is, well, each of these individual users, reason why they got this video was sort of for some kind of personal glory, and it's sort of an individualist act, you know, they want people to pay attention to them, which is sort of the opposite of, you know, what the Only Girls, where the intent was to sort of blur the individual. So, I mean, the artist sort of, I mean, it's sort of similar to what they've been saying, it's the artist the one that sort of has blurred that, and obviously she made a comment about that, but each individual user that posted the video was, you know, it was sort of for, you know, fame, some sort of fame and glory or whatever.
No, that's a good point. And I think that, so what Bookchin's trying to do then is, yes, there's all these intensely personal and intimate and sometimes sexualized videos, or just funny or silly or amateur videos being posted. But what she's trying to point out with all these millions and millions of videos is that there's so much similarity, and there's in this cultural, especially in this case, where millions of people are performing this music video. It's ingrained, it's internalized that really this seemingly individual post of how well they dance is actually not that unique. I mean, maybe you have your different take on it or something, but that what she's trying to do is just point to how much similarity there is in this culturally performed and internalized dance in this instance. I hope that answers your question. Brittany?
Do you think that her preserving the original view count could also be referring to what you were talking about as far as individualized mass learning of the people watching? Because say, you know, you could be sitting at home on your computer watching these videos along with however many other, you could just as easily make a video of people watching the same video. You know? Maybe that's something to.
Absolutely. And something that I don't know if you guys saw the Pepsi commercial where it was a bunch of YouTube videos where people were in there recording themselves, but it was a mass choreographed. They would hand something over to somebody else in a different video, and, you know, it was like super coordinated like that. And so I guess I would say it's such a small part of, you know, your viewing experience, but that would certainly, you know, make it seem like you just don't know if you're watching it as at the exact same time as maybe the million other viewers. But I see what you're saying. Good question. Professor Rita?
Have you considered that this is not limited to mechanized forms of production, that people do these things in real time, in real space, such as waves for quality.
Oh yeah, actually, Professor Drew on my thesis committee, he brought up the Chinese Olympics as an example of this real-time performance that still goes on. So I guess what's different here is that these dancers in these videos aren't in the same room doing it together. I'm not sure if that answers your question.
The idea that it is a wider cultural phenomenon. It's not distinctive to the technology.
Yes, yes.
So, do you want to wrap up the questions?
Okay,
Ask me.
go ahead.
Yes! I'm not transferred. If anybody can tell me where it was in the video, I'll give you a prize. Yes. I wanted to be part of the mass ornament. Oh, I can make one.
Kristina.
Thank you.
And actually, as well, if I'm going to sort of say, really from Aphrodite to the Turtle Girls, what, superb presentations, beautifully researched, actually credit to them.